Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Wednesday, June 26th, 8:48 a.m. I love that when I'm late and I get here and I'm rushing to start the show, the amount of comments, and the way these comments are formulated. One of them must have had a late gay night date. Another one, he's stuck in Massachusetts. Another one, he's late because he's gay. Another one, gay people are never on time. Another one, why does he even put a time? He should just put the estimate time. Okay, the reason I was late for this one, and we're going to start off with our first story. That was pretty aggressive. I was like, we're going to start off with our first story with this one. I was actually composing a tweet. Okay, that's why I was late. When you're on Twitter, sometimes you really got to get a tweet out. And I was writing this tweet because I found out this information 2 minutes before I was supposed to go live. And I was like, I got to get this tweet out because I know when I go live, I can't really type and talk at the same time. I'm not the best at doing that from a multitasking perspective. So I had to put out that tweet. And we're going to talk about this as our first story. We've got a lot to talk about today. I will be live at 12 p.m. NVIDIA shareholder meeting. I'll be streaming that live. We'll see what NVIDIA has to say, what Jensen Huang has to say. I believe he's on the shareholder meeting, so that'll be a big one. So I'll be live again at 12. We got to talk about Rivn last night, Fedex earnings, Micron earnings. There's so much to talk about, but this news broke 2 minutes after, or 2 minutes right before I went live. And so let's start off with it. Robinhood got upgraded to $29 from Wolf Research. This one, so I woke up this morning and I saw Robinhood up. It was at like 22.86, and I was like, huh. I mean, I guess I was just like, all right, I guess the market's just up. But it was a pretty aggressive jump from like 22.15 or 22.40 or whatever to 22.86. I mean, usually you don't get that big of a bounce in the pre-market unless some type of news is out there. And then I find out, no. The reason it's up is because we got upgraded. Bitcoin was down this morning as well, so you would think Robinhood gets hit. Robinhood right now, 22.88 in the pre-markets. Let's talk about this one for a minute. Let's talk about this one because this one was a good one. This upgrade was a good upgrade on Robinhood. So let's read a little bit from this. It's from Wolf Research. This is now one of the highest price targets on the street. I think JMP has $30, Bank of America has 24, and then these guys have 29. So they're going above Bank of America because they think the estimates are way too low. Wolf's 2026 GAAP EPS estimate is over 70% above consensus, driven by 30% EPS growth year over year, 20% net deposit growth, 5% account growth, and strong free cash flow generation. If Robinhood can grow net deposits 20%, right now they're at like 45%, 5% account growth, and then the EPS 30%, they're going to put up GAAP EPS numbers in 2026 of about $1, which is above estimates of 56 cents in 2026. Which means the price target is just too low. Here's what the analysts have to say. Here's what the analysts had to say. Following our meeting with the CFO, Jason Warnick, we see durable growth supported by significant operating leverage and strong fundamentals. Current estimates are too low, and our risk-reward framework supports a $29 price target. Our confidence in Robinhood's EPS growth algorithm is reinforced by the firm's best-in-class incremental margin profile. That's because they're a tech company that have fixed costs, which is why they're allowed and able to have these margins. With our modeled estimates suggesting that Robinhood can double GAAP EPS from 2024 to 2026. Again, basically saying that every number they're putting up, these crazy deposit numbers, crazy option trading numbers, all this stuff, eventually the gold subscribers, that hits the bottom line. And when that hits the bottom line, we get $1 of EPS by 2026, which puts them to a price target of about $29. Now, why is this one so good to see? Why is this research report really nice? And why is the street taking it seriously? This first sentence. Following our meeting with CFO Jason Warnick. What that means for Robinhood, what that means for investors that are reading that first sentence is Robinhood invited this dude, this Wolf analyst, to some fancy dinner. And while they were at that dinner, they got some fancy wine. And for basically 3 hours, they essentially talked about how good Robinhood is and how the margin profile is better. And Jason Warnick probably looked at him, the CFO, which is the chief financial officer, and he was like, dude, you know what we're doing, right? And the guy's like, yeah, I know what you're doing. He's like, dude, we just put in $11 billion last quarter. Like, you don't think this, like, you know what's going to happen, right? And so at the end of that meeting, you get a little nod by the CFO in person. You start to realize, man, their estimates are just too low. That's what happens at these dinners. To my understanding, I have no information about this, but what I think is when you have a meeting with one of the C-suite executives of the company, CFO, CEO, COO, that person pretty much tells you, you need to fucking realize what's going on in the company, because you don't have that. When Robinhood was $7, they're not having that meeting. They're not, or if they're having that meeting, it's definitely not a fancy steak dinner with a lot of wine, because no matter what they do to upgrade the stock, if you're stuck in a range, your stock's not getting out of that range. Like there's nothing, you can't wine and dine an analyst when the stock's in the gutter, when the business sucks. Like they can't ruin the reputation by putting out some stupid price target just because they like you. When the business is going well and things are moving in the right direction, and you can just look at the analyst and be like, you really need to like realize what's happening here, then I think the analyst can upgrade you. And that's what we got right here. So from a meeting with the CFO, Wolf Research says, nope, the gap estimates are way too low. Their growth is durable. It's going to keep getting higher. Their margin profile is incredible. And you get Robinhood at 22.84 and the pre-market's up 3.16%. So that's why I was late today, because I was trying to put out that tweet before I had to go live. And it took me a couple extra minutes to do that. Okay, cool. So they hucked to it on that analyst. Oh my God, basically. Oh, that's great. That's basically what they did, bro. That's pretty much what they did. That's great. Amit, have you seen the Olin live stream, those super chats? Yeah, I saw a little bit of the Olin live stream. There was some good stuff here and there. I didn't get to watch the entire thing, but it is cool, right? We do a live stream, and it just shows you in content, like going direct to the consumer is the most important. Olin, one of the most successful they just interviewed Trump. They did a live stream and they actually interacted with the audience. So really cool to see like a really, really big podcast actually interact with people that, you know, like to consume their content. I saw the tweet, and that's why you were late. And I knew that's why you were late. Yeah, dude, I found out like a minute before I had to go live, and I was like, I need to post about this. This is like big news. But then I had to just like, you know, format the tweet and stuff. But okay, so that was the Robinhood news. Now, what else do we have to talk about today? I don't know if you guys saw, but a company that we were interested in, I want to say we as a community, because I think we all kind of participated in the potential buying of either derivatives or common stock for this company, made us, you know, but we took a look at it, at least as a community. And I think most of us, definitely myself, said, hey, we're going to stay away from this one. This bad boy right now is up 30% in the pre-market. Rivn. So remember I asked this question on May 18th. Okay, so I have a question. Don't hate me, but Rivn, yay or nay? Got a lot of feedback on it. This was a Saturday. I took this entire Saturday to go deeper into Rivn's business model, try to understand who they are, what they are. Rivn right now up 36% in the pre-markets. Ultimately concluded the cash burn is too much, and the cash burn being too much makes me afraid and hesitant to look at Rivn in a much more serious way. I watched interviews of the CEO. I really was not like a fan of the CEO. He didn't make me want to huck Tua on the stock, you know? And so I was just like, we're going to stay away from this one. Well, yesterday, this bad boy goes up at 1.50%. It's up 30% right now, and we'll see what happens as the market opens. But it was up 30. It's up 35% right now. It was up almost 55%. It was at like $18.88. It was trying to push $19. And that's because they got a $5 billion investment from Volkswagen, which is a car company. And that Volkswagen company decided to invest take $1 billion equity stake. But outside of that $1 billion equity stake, they also decided to invest up to $4 billion for the next what do you call it? For the next like 4 years, 3 or 4 years. Basically, a total is $5 billion at the end of the day, given what the investment is being set for. So this was pretty big news last night after the bell. We were on the market close. We reacted to it live, and we're like, oh my God, Rivn, they got this 36%. I mean, at that point, it was like 50%, and it was incredible, super cool. I found out some news about this, and maybe it's not that important. So the bears yesterday that I thought were just being haters, quite frankly, like I saw all the Tesla bears come out like, man, like, you know, Rivn's still going to go bankrupt. They're still losing money, blah, blah, blah. I thought they were being a bunch of haters. And then we had our boy Gali from Hyperchange put out a tweet about the details of this. And maybe, as John Stevens says, rare that a company gets that lucky. Maybe they got lucky on this one for a reason. Now, the luck comes from a company willing to put up $5 billion for them. But there's a reason why. So if you look into the actual 8K SEC filing of this, I'm just going to call them VW because I don't know how to say Volkswagen. So I'm just going to say VW. VW gets to buy at 1083 per share. That means almost 100 shares for about $1 billion or 10% dilution. Plus, they get 4.75% interest on top of that. Now, if you look, it looks like 50% of the 1 billion plus 50% of the accrued interest will convert at 1084 per share, then cover half of the debt and interest will also convert at the 40-day average trading price, which will obviously be higher than 1084 a share at the time, meaning this overall dilution will result in about 7%, not 10%. The point is there will be some dilution here. Now, we had Mayer, who's a big guy in the Tesla community. He says, what? They sold $1 billion of converts with an in-the-money strike? This is terrible for current Rivian investors, except as a bailout and temporary one at that, since the money needs to be repaid if the stock drops below 1083. Now, the goal is the stock should not drop below 1083 because if Rivian increases their gross margin profile, they're still losing $40,000 a vehicle using this $5 billion, then the stock should be above trading at cash. And at 1083, it's basically trading at cash. However, if it's below 1083, it's a pretty bad form of dilution for existing shareholders. He says this is way worse than Tesla's converts from 2018 to 2019, which only diluted if the company was highly successful and the stock soared. So the main beef some of the Tesla people, Mayer is one of the bigger people in the Tesla community, have with this Rivian deal, which I don't even know if it's, I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world, but the argument is if the stock drops below 1083, which, it was at for the past couple of months, Rivian shareholders get diluted below that price, which is bad. Whereas Tesla's converts were better because if the stock went up, that's when shareholders got diluted. Kind of like MicroStrategy. If the stock goes up, then shareholders get diluted, but no one cares because the stock is up. So any incremental loss of value from the dilution doesn't make up the overall delta between the share appreciation of the stock itself. So, I mean, I don't know, dude. On first glance, it really doesn't seem that big of a deal that there's this dilution happening before below the 1083 strike price, even though it is weird because it doesn't suggest there's going to be, like, if you buy in Rivian now at $16, you would want to get diluted above that price, not below that price, because that kind of messes things up. And it gives you the possibility of that falling below that price. So from that perspective, yes, you could say it's a little bit of an iffy deal, but in the broad scheme of things, Robinhood, wow, 2270 up 2.53%. Oh, I thought it was at like 23%. No, Robinhood is 2270. If that does happen, then that is one thing to be concerned about. But if you're a Rivian shareholder that was stuck in the $10 to $12 range, then I mean, you've got to like this deal. Lucid is up 5.6% just off the sympathy of this. Like, that's incredible. Lucid's up 5.6% just because Rivian gets up 35%. That one makes no sense, but like even that one is getting a little bit of love. Tesla right now in the pre-market, Tesla is down a little bit, 0.21%. So the reason Tesla's down, if it's correlated with this news, is kind of the idea that there's another player in the space, and that player in the space is not messing around. And now they have $5 billion of fresh capital that they're going to be able to use in a sophisticated way to potentially do what they need to do when it comes to essentially winning, right? And actually competing more concretely with Tesla. Oak says on a road trip amid can finally tune into the live stream. Awesome. Thank you for being here, Oak. Hope you enjoy the road trip. So this is what the CEO says, RJ Scaringe. This is exciting. VW Group CEO Oliver Bloom and I are thrilled to announce the formation of a joint venture. So it's not just an equity stake, it's a joint venture between our two companies. This partnership brings Rivian software and Zana Electronics platform to a broader market through VW's group global reach and scale, while providing an expected $5 billion of capital to Rivian as we bring R2 and our next generation vehicles to market. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Good or bad? Good or bad? Good or bad? We're going to do a fun experiment, and we're going to see when the market opens how much my options would have been worth if I loaded up. Dude, my strike was going to be $20. The sucker's at almost 17. Like we're getting there 2 years, 3 years ahead of schedule, because this is going to be December 2026. And it would have been, the options would have done well. Now, granted, I wasn't going to build up a massive position in it. It would have been like a couple $1,000 or something. So it's not like it would have been huge, but I don't know if I did have that options position, I would have seriously thought about taking profits today, because I don't know if this $5 billion investment means Rivian's gross margins change. And those gross margins fundamentally need to change, or else they're going to keep burning money. Like, until they make a operating profit on those damn cars, what's the, they can get $20 billion. If they can't make a profit, then it's not that exciting. The thing about Rivian, though, and the reason I got excited about it at $10 is because it was trading at cash. And when companies are trading at cash, if the company's not dead, like, the simple thesis is, if you want to go for a YOLO 5, 6, 7x play, which kind of was Robinhood, if it's trading at cash, and there's a thesis, well, it's not going to be trading at cash forever. It's like it's theoretically bottomed. That was the same thesis for Rivn, but the fear I had was that if they keep burning cash, then they have not bottomed. Like they're going to lose cash, they're going to lose their market cap, which means the tangible book value will be lower and the stock will fall. But it looks like this $5 billion of capital is going to save them and give them a little bit more of runway to keep going. Beneficial says now they have $5 billion more of cash to burn. You guys called him Steve-O. He's not Steve-O, dude. Does he look like Steve-O? Okay, he kind of looks like Steve-O. I'm not going to lie. CEO Rivn kind of looks like Steve-O. And again, I watched his interviews. I just didn't fall in love with the guy, dude. I didn't want to give him any Haktua. And like, I think if I invest in a company, bro, like I do a nice I need to want to give the guy some Haktua. I really do. If not, dude, it's going to be hard holding the shares. It's going to be very hard holding the shares. Someone says, dude, Volkswagen owns brand firm seats to Bugatti with Porsche and Lamborghini in between. I mean, yeah, it's a good partner. I'm not saying it's a bad partner. And they're definitely wanting to electrify their fleet. So they definitely need someone like a Rivn. The question is, can Rivn sell enough cars? I saw a Rivn for the first time yesterday in my neighborhood. First time. I've seen a lot of Teslas. I saw a Rivn for the first time and I was surprised. Can Rivn actually make their vehicles profitable and sell enough vehicles? Remember, the horrible stat on Rivn, they spend the same amount of OpEx expenses as Tesla, about 1.4 billion, and they deliver 1/10 less of the vehicles. Tesla's at 400,000, Rivn's at like 40,000. So they spend a lot, they make a little. If that changes, then yeah, this $5 billion investment is going to be good. Oh my gosh. And that's true, dude. If I'm not going to give a Haktua to the CEO, then I'm not fucking buying the stock, bro. Like I gotta, like, metaphorically, obviously we're speaking in metaphors. I've got to feel excited. Like I'd be willing to do that to potentially make it an equity investment. Otherwise it's going to be hard to hold on to the shares. It's just going to be hard. Okay. So that's Rivn. Let's talk about Nvidia. Let's talk about good old Nvidia. So where's Nvidia right now in the pre-market? Nvidia is 125. Okay, so Nvidia is going red. So I'm a little confused about this. Nvidia was 128 in the morning. In fact, they were 128 like 3 minutes before I went live, and then I saw them go to 126, and I was like, ooh, that's a red candle. Now, it was still green. It wasn't red like you're seeing on the screen right now. It was still green, but I was like, something happened, and I couldn't find out any news that happened. So if anyone in the chat has any news that happened, please let me know, because if Nvidia's down, Micron's probably going to be down right now. Yeah, Micron's up a little bit, but it was up a lot more. It was at like 145. Now it's at 142. Look, you can see, yeah, it was at 146.7. Now it's at 142. I don't know what news came out, but someone just dumped oh, look at this. It's falling down 1%. Someone just dumped a crap ton of shares on Nvidia. Whole market went down. Did it? Really? Hold on. S&P. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so what news came out? I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. Let me see if we can find it right now, because I was actually very confused why I saw the Nvidia dip. But I couldn't see why. Let's see. Let's go on Twitter. Let's see if we get something. I don't think we have any big news today. Mortgage rates did go lower from 6.94 to 6.93, so that's good, but that's good news. That's not bad news. Micron reports after the bell. Yeah, we're going to talk about Micron as well. That's going to be a really big earnings, and if they do well, Nvidia is going to continue to do well. So I'll talk about the relationship between them in a bit. No, I can't find the reason, dude. Why did the market take a hit? I don't see the reason. I don't see the reason yet. Nvidia, I don't see it. Yeah, except Rivn, correct. Okay, while I try to find that, let me play this right here. Oh wow, Cantor Fitzgerald just raised their price target to 175. Holy crap. They said, we have seen a more torrid pace of technology innovation and subsequent reduction in the cost of compute as we are seeing today, all driven by NVIDIA and its full system approach. We continue to view the company's opportunity morphing from a percentage of data center capex to a percentage of global IT spend, and soon to a percentage of GDP spending. What a sentence. It's not just about percentage of data center capex, but a percentage of global IT spend and then soon global GDP spending. Okay, let's play someone who thinks Nvidia can go to 6 trillion by the end of this year. And while we're playing this, I'm going to try to figure out what the hell happened and why the market is down. The market crashed because you're gay. All right, so we are not This meme is not ending anytime soon. All right, here you go.
Well, I'm good. I'm not as good as you think NVIDIA is going to be, though. I mean, these are not typos. You think it's going to head close to 70 times PE before the end of the year, and it's going to hit $6 trillion in market cap at $250 a share? Do tell.
I think so. I think so. By the end of the year, as people start to look forward to what they're going to do in 2025. Yeah, like I know you talk all the time, Scott, to people like Stacey Raskin, who says, you know, this stock is still cheap. And yet nobody seems to believe it. But here are the numbers. Over the last 5 years, NVIDIA's average look forward price earnings multiple has been 40 times. Yesterday, after this 2-day correction, it was 39 times forward price earnings. But there have been 3 times in the last 5 years where it's had a look forward price earnings multiple of over 50x, and 2 times in the last 5 years where it's gotten just about to 70x and then it pulled back. So we just haven't seen that euphoria yet.
It didn't just pull back at those times. It got destroyed.
It got destroyed, yes, a couple of those times. So, this is a high flyer, and expectations can reset on a bad earnings report, but they can also get equally overhyped on good news. And despite the fact the stock's had an enormous run, it's the euphoria hasn't yet caught up in terms of the go forward multiple. I think what's going to happen in the second half.
Guys, I still don't see any news. I need the chat to help me out on this. I see 0 news for why the market just tanked. So I'm trying to figure it out, but I see nothing.
After this year, as people start to see how well the Blackwell chips are selling, how good the gross margins are on those, and start thinking about what's to come with the Rubin chips around the corner, their next generation after that, I think we'll start to see that euphoria reflected in a lofty go forward price earnings multiple. And if that happens, this thing could go to $6 trillion market cap.
You don't think they're over earning at all right now, just based on the flood of orders? They're kind of the only game in town.
Well, they're selling to these big hyperscalers. But think about it. Who are they going to sell to? They can't make enough of these chips to sell to everybody on the planet. So they got to prioritize. Why wouldn't you prioritize to these hyperscalers who are putting in orders, as large as they possibly can to lock up as many of these chips that they can currently get their hands on, the H100s, H200s. And so that's supposed to be a bad thing. That's supposed to be a sign that, it's overly concentrated to these folks.
Well, it's not a bad thing.
I don't think so.
It is what it is. But I mean, you have to extrapolate what you think the future is going to look like based on everything that you just said right now. I mean, there are other competitors out there who are going to be making chips and selling them to potentially the hyperscalers too, and other players as well.
I think this argument about competitors competing with NVIDIA's chips, I never was convinced by this argument because the big boys keep buying from NVIDIA.
Granted, NVIDIA has the whole football field to itself, so it can go up and down the field unabated. There's no defense, but eventually there might be some defense on that field.
Years down the road. So they've got the.
I agree.
They've got, to use your analogy, Scott, they've got 80 yards of clear turf in front of them to keep running towards touchdown. Nobody's catching up to them. There's just a bunch of lazy linebackers behind them. So I think it's years away from that happening. They're gonna take advantage of that lead that they have, and it's not expensive. Coatue had an earnings slide recently that talked about how this is not Cisco in the .com era. Back then, Cisco's go forward PE multiple got to a peak of something like 136x. Again, we're below the mean for the last 5 years. So even though the stock has done so well, it is still relatively cheap compared to where it's traded in the past.
Now, granted, I don't know if it goes to $6 trillion by the end of the year. He thinks $250 is very possible by the end of the year. I think the euphoria could get there. If it's at $250 by the end of the year, that means retail has officially started to. Yeah, I know retail is in Nvidia, but retail starts to the taxi driver. Everyone starts buying Nvidia just because it gets that crazy. If that happens by the end of the year, that would be pretty incredible. But yeah, I don't know if it happens by the end of the year, but I do think we do have upside momentum in the context of NVIDIA, because I just don't think there's enough people or enough companies willing to compete. Now, in the context of the market, again, the reason why I say tanked, obviously the market didn't tank, but it went from a sharp green candle to a sharp red candle. NVIDIA, S&P, a lot of companies. And so that you got to ask yourself what happens in those situations, right? We're recovering a little bit right here, 124.24 on NVIDIA now to 125.09. The 10-year did move up a little bit. The dollar index moved up a little bit. But I don't know if that's enough. Someone says there was a manufacturing survey on CNBC. If that was a really important manufacturing survey, I would have seen it on the couple of websites I use to track macro research, and I don't see it here. So even if it was like a important survey, it can't be that important to like get the market to reverse. Obviously, markets have done very well in this entire year, but when you have a sharp reversal like that, there's some piece of news that comes out that's important to analyze for investors to figure out, if this news is that serious or if it's just something that's going to be forgotten about. Yeah, look at this red candle on NVIDIA. We went from 125.09 back down to 124.59. S&P down 0.23%. Micron at 142, and GameStop down 8%. We'll talk about GameStop. Wow, talk about a red candle. GameStop is now $22, and now it's at 24.61. It went from 22 to 24.61. It's down 1.2%. It was down 8%. That might have been a Weeble bug, to be honest. But yeah, that one's down 1.23% right now. Intel's down a little bit. Broadcom is up a little bit now. It was down. And NVIDIA's trying to recover, but really interesting that it took a little bit of a reverse. It could also just be people taking profits, dude. I mean, NVIDIA's having their annual meeting today. Yeah, I'll be streaming it live at 12 p.m. People could also just be taking profits before that annual meeting in case people don't say anything interesting in that meeting. I don't know if Jensen's usually on these meetings. I haven't heard an NVIDIA meeting before. So today will be the first time hearing it. Also, Robinhood's at 12:30. I think more people want to hear NVIDIA, so we'll hear NVIDIA from 12 to 1. And because I doubt they'll be done at 12:30. And then I'll listen to the Robinhood one after on my own, and I'll post a bunch of updates on it. But from 12 to 1, we'll listen to the NVIDIA one. I mean, if we want after, we can just replay the Robinhood one, and I can just stream till market close. Maybe we do that. We'll see. But yeah, that's what we're going to have to do a little bit later today. James says, just need to say you're way cooler to listen to than Meet Kevin. Speaking of Meet Kevin, bro. Oh man, we got to, I appreciate that. Meet Kevin is also super dope. He posted a clip. We got to watch a little bit of this, dude, with Cathie and Ross going at it. Oh man, that was pretty incredible. I mean, she basically called him out on this whole not voting for Elon thing. And she made a hell of an argument, dude. She made a hell of an argument, and Ross really didn't have a good answer. I mean, let's watch like a couple minutes of that because I thought that was really interesting. And then we'll move on from there.
Paying the richest man in the world more money. What's your response?
That's a terrible answer. No, I'm
That's in response to Ross saying that Elon's too rich, so he doesn't deserve more money.
I'm saying this man committed, and you voted for it, to working for free. No base salary, no bonus, no stock comp.
Cathie owned 20% of the company.
So what? He said, here, I'm going to lay out this plan. And if I achieve this from an operational point of view, this is the compensation package. And I'll tell you what we thought. This was back in 2018, because we had just published our first Tesla model. And I remember saying to our analysts, I said, he's using our model. He thinks we're right. He thinks we're right. I mean, of course, it's all about us. No, I didn't mean that, but he's using our model. He really thinks this is possible when no one thinks this is possible out there. And we had him.
Granted, Cathie did have a $4,000 price target, which was 20x above the current price. So yeah, I would use your model too if I was the CEO, because you're the most bullish on the street. But also, he delivered on that 20x, right? So he did feel Cathie was right on kind of the research.
Accomplishing those goals in 5 years. He did them in 3 years. And now you're going to tell him no?
I didn't tell him no at all. In fact, it was Judge McCormick that invalidated the pay package.
So
because
judges are now in charge of corporate compensation.
No, it's not about corporate compensation, Cathie, and I think that's the misperception. It's about corporate governance. And Tesla has a board that is not independent. and it is required by the NASDAQ and Delaware to have an independent board. And what the judge had said was that the package was not negotiated fairly with the board. See, the issue I had and why I voted against it was I thought it would be much more productive for them to do a new pay package than to regurgitate the old one
But
that was shot down.
They could not, if you, ISS said the same thing. Why didn't they cut the pay cap? You couldn't do that legally in this.
Well, you can retroactively like add
But
compensation
that's
from the
beside
past.
the point. I shouldn't even have countenance the point because I just don't agree with it. He did it. We've voted once again. The shareholders have voted, and I don't think court and we voted knowing full well all the governance issues you think were an issue. But if they were an issue, they were an issue back then, and you shouldn't have voted for it.
No, I don't.
And that's a big point, dude. That's where she's so right on this. Remember, the reason the Delaware judge said, oh, Elon doesn't deserve to get paid is because the way the compensation package was constructed in 2018, even though 70% of the shareholders voted for it, is because there was a conflict of interest on the board. Ross knew who was on the board in 2018. It was Kimball Musk, his brother. Of course, there was a quote unquote conflict of interest, but the point is no one cares, which is why they voted for it. And so did Ross. But now he's using that argument to vote against it, which just does not make sense. And Cathie's like, if you voted for it once, how do you not vote for it again after Elon made you filthy rich?
It's not what I think. It's what the judge in Delaware thinks, and that's why it got invalidated.
Oh my goodness!
So what's happened?
I love Cathie right there. She's like, oh really? Oh my goodness.
Now is it's going back to the judge in Delaware, and just because we revoted for it again doesn't necessarily make it valid either. So that was the problem, is that we're still dealing with this.
You know what's been great about this whole time? Andrew Ross Sorkin on CNBC, and we used to be on the other side of Tesla regularly. He is with us on this. I think this is un-American. I really do.
What's un-American?
To let judges use some esoteric fairness. What's unfair about a stock moving from, I don't even know what on the split basis, $20 to 417? You know, what's unfair about
once
that?
Again, you're not talking about why this happened. This happened because Elon's brother is on the board of directors,
And
and
he was
voted
back then,
on,
and you knew
right.
it.
But what?
So again, she's Ross he didn't have anything meaningful to say, dude. He didn't have anything meaningful to say. It was just like, he was like, well, Elon's brother's on the board. And she was like, yeah, but he was there 5 years ago. And it's just like, obviously Ross voted against it out of pure narcissism and ego because he's been basically talking shit about Elon for the past 2 years. So there's no way he was going to vote to give him $50 billion. And that's the sad part to me. Like to not acknowledge your own ego, given you're rich, you have a name, like people actually care about Ross. I know a lot of people don't like the guy, but still he's raised $2 billion of funds for his wealth management firm. Like people know you because of Tesla. Now, Ross's argument to this actually at one point, S&P right here at 543, I was watching an interview the other day. Ross's argument said, although Elon, created good returns for the firm, we took a big risk investing in Tesla. So we deserve those returns. That's when I realized the guy is actually just unbelievably narcissistic. I mean, like his argument is, well, if I didn't give Elon the money, then Elon wouldn't have, been able to give me the returns. And I'm like, dude, I think Elon would have figured out how to get $200 million if your firm didn't give it to him. Like, I think the world's greatest entrepreneur would have figured out how to find an extra 200 million somewhere in the world. So it's like, he's holding on to his investment dollars in he's acting like he was the seed investor or something. No, dude, like you were like in 2018, the company was the company. It was 50 billion. You put in some more money and then the company started to do well. But the idea that your money is the reason why Tesla's successful and you deserve the credit for taking the risk. I don't know, dude. Come on, bro. You were not that early in the company. You were there, you were helpful, but you got to be grateful for what he was able to do. I think his investment was 200 million. I could be wrong about that. I think it was close. If anyone knows in the chat, let me know, but I think it was close to 200 million. I think Cathie put in a little bit more than that as well. There you go. That's what happened with Cathie and Ross. I thought it was good. I thought it was actually a good conversation on Meet Kevin's channel. There was a lot of different stuff. They talked about the political landscape, what they believe in, how they think the economy is going, all that stuff. Okay, Micron. Let's talk about Micron. So Micron reports after the bell. I did a post about Micron yesterday really important to understand what's going on in the world of Micron technology. So this is a company. This is a company that had an incredible earnings last quarter, and they need to double down on that performance in order to continue to gain momentum. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got 7 minutes until the market opens. 9:30 minus 9:23 equals 7. The math skills are just incredible on this side of YouTube, and so that's why I was able to say 7 minutes so quickly without taking out a calculator and calculating how much time until the market opened. Okay, so Micron. Let's take a look at it. So Micron's up 72% year to date. All right. They beat revenues at $5.8 billion versus $5.3 billion last quarter, and they surprised with a 42 cents EPS gap profit over an expectation of losing 26 cents a share. So when you put up 42 cents, you beat EPS expectations by 215%. Yeah, the street's going to get very excited. $793 million in profits. Now, what does Micron do? They're a semiconductor stock. They design and manufacture advanced memory storage solutions. This allows efficient data processing, storage, retrieval, etc., all throughout the GPUs. Basically, the more AI becomes a thing, the more memory solutions we're going to need. That's why they had a surprise profit last quarter, because the demand for their memory solutions are catching up to them. If they beat expectations again, it will be bullish once again for Nvidia. Their relationship with Nvidia is centered around the supply and use of memory solutions. So this is a little technical here, but Micron provides high-performance memory products such as the GDDR6, which are crucial for NVIDIA's graphic processing units, their GPUs, used in gaming, data centers, and AI and professional visualization. I don't even know what GDDR6 is, but that's one of their highest-performing memory products that they sell on the market, and it's seemingly incredibly important for NVIDIA's GPUs. And if NVIDIA crushed 2 quarters ago, it kind of makes sense now why Micron crushed, because they are one of the pivotal players to make sure those GPUs are utilized in an effective way. All roads lead back to NVIDIA. So if Micron can crush earnings ahead of expectations now are about 46 cents a share and about $6.6 billion in revenue, I think the market's going to have no choice not only to pump Micron stock, especially if they raise guidance, but they're going to have to pump NVIDIA. Because if Micron's crushing on demand, that means NVIDIA is likely selling more GPUs. The only way Micron crushes is if NVIDIA has enough GPUs to create the demand for Micron to be able to crush, which means today after the bell, this is going to be very important. If Micron can beat and raise expectations, I think NVIDIA gets a little bit of a pump as well after Micron has earnings. And if they do, then it's going to be good for the entire semiconductor industry as well. Drew says, Amit, can you look at their accounts receivable from last quarter? It's like $4 billion. Yeah, I heard this as well on Twitter last night. They have a lot of backlog. Same thing with Taiwan Semi. A lot of backlog. And as a result of that, the market is getting more excited for them. Wow, look at NVIDIA recovering. So NVIDIA fell 20 minutes ago, and we were kind of freaking out when it fell to 124.38. It could have been just like it could have been someone just dumping their shares, but this was the red candle right here. Now it recovered all the way. It's like 0.02% away from going green. Yep, it just went green. Wow. Look at that, dude. Every damn dip. It fell $1 and people bought the dip going into the pre-market. Now it's green. Now it's freaking green. Unbelievable. The amount of people that want exposure to NVIDIA only gets higher and higher and higher. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, the covered call premiums on NVIDIA are also exceptional. Let's take a look at that real quick. I posted that yesterday on Twitter. You could buy 10 shares today. Let's call it 100 shares at 125. You would spend $12,500. You can sell a covered call for 140 by December. Now, I know a lot of people think it'll go above 140 by December, but let's say it stays in that range from 125 to 140. And you would collect about $1,375 in premium, probably a little bit more today. Which is an 11% return in 5 months on top of the 12% gain NVIDIA would need in order to get from 140, which means from 125 to 140, they would have to add about $370 billion in market cap. So you would have a 23% gain in 5 months. Now, a lot of comments I got underneath this was like, oh, well, what if the thing keeps running and then you miss out on the gains? Yeah, that's if NVIDIA goes to 200, you're out, you're out $60 a share because you sold at 140. But that's the that's the benefit of doing covered calls, is like if it's stuck in a range, which NVIDIA this whole year has been horrible to do covered calls on because it keeps breaking out of that range, then you can collect some premium and still keep your shares. But there is a chance that a lot of people that try to sell those covered calls, they just don't keep their shares, which is the risky part about doing covered calls on NVIDIA. But the premiums are exceptional because obviously the market is buying a ton of call options on NVIDIA. So you can sell puts. Yeah, the put premiums are good as well. They're not as good, I think, as the covered call premiums, but because again, more people are buying calls because they're betting that Nvidia will keep going higher. All right, we got 2 minutes until the market opens. Nvidia now green, 126.15. I'm looking at Nvidia when the market opens. I'm looking at Rivn as the market opens, 1632. Again, Rivn, if you just look at their chart here, it was stuck for a long time in a certain range. It was 997 in May 29th. And basically a month later in June, it was at 1064. So from 997 to 1064, not really a ton of movement. At one point, it broke out to like $12. But outside of that, it's been pretty stuck. It needed a catalyst. It needed a piece of news that was fundamentally changing for the trajectory of the company. And the piece of news was that Volkswagen is going to put in $5 billion, and that's going to help. I mean, Rivn must wear a lot of jeans to be getting $5 billion, and they must love listening to Michael Jackson. Rest in peace to Michael Jackson. But $5 billion on a company that was worth $9 billion in cash. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And now it's gonna be a question of if the street respects this investment and if they think the joint partnership is able to result in any material change. And if not, we'll see potential volatility. But if they respect it, then it probably will do, will do a lot better. Kelly says that was a stretch. That was not a stretch. It was Billie Jean. It was a very obvious joke. For anyone who understands comedy or humor, you were able to get that joke. It was not a stretch. Okay. You know who does stretch now? Me, because I'm back in the gym. You know what I'm talking about? I'm back in the gym. You see, I'm not a defense contractor, but these guns are getting up there. So, okay, I used that joke too many times. That joke there. I'll acknowledge that joke's getting gold. That one's getting gold. Well, we got to get to a new joke. But I am back in the gym, guys, and I'm loving it every single day. I'm trying to get back to burning 1,000 calories on the treadmill every day. Right now, I'm at like 300, 400, so I'm getting back into it. I was doing it back in October, dude. I was burning 1,000 calories. It was amazing. There was so much sweat. It was incredible. So we're trying to get back to that. All right, June 26th, 9:30 a.m. Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Rivn opens at 16, about 1590 right now on the day, 1582. So still up 32% right now. But it is down from that $16 level, 1574 on Rivn. Robinhood opens at 2281. Again, if you're just joining, Robinhood got a $29 price target upgrade from Wolf Research. They said, man, the EPS estimates are way too low. This company is going to put up $1 per share in 2026. They had a meeting with the CFO, Jason Warnick. They feel much more confident that Robinhood's business is durable, and they upgraded them to $29 on the day, which is why Robinhood is up about 3% right now. Nvidia opens up about 0.5% up on the day, 126.76. So that small pre-market decline we saw to 124.30, that got eaten up relatively quickly. Now we're at 126.83 on Nvidia. Micron's up 1.47% on the day. Tesla is actually green on the day, 188, up 0.43%. Lucid's up 2.5%. GameStop's down 0.56%. Broadcom is up 0.83%. Intel, you talk about wheeling a stock. TJ and I bought about 1,500 shares on Intel. And this one here, $30.64. We sold covered calls at $31, and this one just stays within its range so far of 30 to 31. So that one's doing well. That one's down about 0.37% on the day. Fedex, we didn't talk about Fedex. They're up 11%. I'll go through their earnings in a second, but last night, basically they crushed EPS, they crushed revenue, and they raised full year diluted GAAP EPS, which means there is demand not only from the consumer to import and export items, but also from companies and countries, because FedEx is a global company. And it just shows that if they're raising guidance, they are going to have a pretty good year. And they see the demand that is necessary in order for them to raise guidance, which again, given how the market's turning out, it makes sense that FedEx is able to capitalize on the demand that we're seeing. Amazon at 186, Enovix at 1593. They're down 2% on the day. Carnival Cruise red just slightly on the day at 1780. They had a good day yesterday after they beat expectations on their earnings. Palantir is green, 2460. Palantir is green, 2460. Where's Robinhood? Robinhood, 2316. Back in the 23s for Robinhood, up 4.49% on the day. Nice to see Robinhood get some momentum right there, and it makes sense. Obviously, this research note is something that a lot of people on Wall Street look at from Wolf Research, and sometimes when a big firm says, hey, like everyone's got it wrong, this thing has a lot of room to run, that's when the street starts buying. So Robinhood right here, 2316. Tesla 189, Lucid at 3, up 3.2%. Where's Celsius? Celsius Wow. Oh my God. It's down another 3.7%. Unbelievable, bro. I mean, dude, if you look at the chart of this thing, it's kind of disgusting, bro. It pumped to 99 in March, fell all the way to 68, pumped right back to 97, and then it just fell and fell and fell and fell. Now you're at 53 on Celsius. Wow. This was one where if you timed it right and you got in at this price in January and you sold at 99, then you made money. If not, it's tough unless you have, an average from years ago and you're sitting long term. But this one got hit. And again, the reason why this one's getting hit is because of those sales decreasing. The Nielsen report came out, and so the market's just not going to pay extra for the growth. Tesla's up 1.39%. Wow, Tesla's trying to break 190. Is this Rivn news bullish for Tesla? Look at that. Tesla's at 190. Tesla's at 190. Rivn is bullish for Tesla, it seems. Rivn is up 32%. Oh, let's look how much money I could have made on the options. Okay, let's do this. Let's see how much I could have made on the Rivn options. So remember, for Rivn, this is what we were going to do on Rivn. This is what we were going to do. It's still up 30%. Not bad. Not bad at all. All right. So what we were going to do, we were going to go to December 2026 and we were going to buy the $20 call and we were going to sell the $22.5 call. So we're going to do a spread. Oh, wow. It's actually not, it's not going for that much. I mean, well, technically it is. So technically you could have bid at like 30 cents or 40 cents if you got filled, and you can, the ask right now is 150. So that's like a 3x, but I don't know if you would get filled at 150. And see, this is the problem with doing these long dated options as well. The bid and the ask is horrible. The bid is negative 25 cents. The ask is 145. So theoretically, I got filled at 47 at one point. I think I sold it a while ago at like $60. So it's like, I don't even have that one spread. But if the ask is going for 150, 120, you're up 3x, but there's no way you would get filled on that. So that's the problem there. And again, sometimes you have to wait a long time for liquidity if you're trading something that's very illiquid and it's years out. So that one probably wouldn't even been that liquid. Maybe we would have gotten like a 40% gain on it. We probably could have got like 80 cents or 70 cents. Rivn right now dropping a little bit of a red candle. Shout out to Stock Market News in the chat. If you guys don't know him, he's on, I'm pretty sure you guys know him. His name is Evan, Stock Market News. I've got to know him over the past couple of weeks. I'll put his Twitter in the chat if you guys don't know him. He says, I thought Rivn would be up more. Yeah, I thought Rivn might have pumped higher. I mean, again, it's up 27%. There's not much we can complain for, but it was up, 50% last night. If anyone bought it at $18, they might be a little upset right now. But shout out to Evan being here in the chat. All right, so Rivn's there at 27%. Tesla now 189. GameStop's actually up 25.10. Again, remember, Roaring Kitty has those 9 million shares. He was down $4 million yesterday when GameStop fell to 22.80. Now he's up. Google, new all-time high. It's red for the day, but it hit an all-time high yesterday at 184. Right now at 183. Snowflake continues to get knocked as well. 123 on Snowflake. I mean, that one's, it hit 122.6. There's just no positive catalyst, I think, coming up for Snowflake outside of earnings, and they just need to really crush on earnings to change the momentum. Palantir right here at 24.43. So the entire market reversing a little bit. Yeah, look at Nvidia taking a nice red candle. So Nvidia reversing as well. It's still at 126. It just recovered from that 125.80 level, and now it's green. But the S&P is down today, 543.67. Maybe Rivn shorts are pressing on making more short. Yeah, what is the short interest on Rivn? Let's actually find out. The short interest on Rivn. Let me know in the chat if anyone owns Rivn. The short interest on Rivn is 18%. Wow. As of May 31st. Yeah, I mean, dude, if Rivn maintains, if you're short, that's not good unless you double down. Wow, Rivn's falling a little bit. 14.95 right now, up 25%. See, the stock market's tough, dude. It's like one day you're up 80% or 50%, and but that's only after hours. That's only pre-market. When the market opens, then like the games begin. Volume is 47 million shares already. See, look, the stock is 14.95. The market cap's 14.8 billion. So literally, it's almost $1 per billion in terms of market cap, which is why they're up $5 because they got 5 billion. So actually, this makes a lot of sense. They were at 9 billion. Now they're at 14 billion. They got 5 billion in cash, $5 a share. It kind of makes sense for them to be at this level. But if you were short at like $9 and it's at 15, it's not the best. That's not the best right now. Where's PayPal? PayPal. Wow, PayPal's below 59. goodness freaking gracious, dude. Fucking PayPal, bro. Oh my God. I don't even know anymore about. I don't think anything's fundamentally wrong with the company, but the problem is, I was talking to Steve about this the other day. The perception is that Apple Pay and all these other companies are just like going to kill PayPal, and like PayPal's a dinosaur. And sometimes the perception is all that's needed for the stock to take a hit. PayPal is a stock that has no catalyst. I think if you didn't make money this year in terms of you're not up on your portfolio, it's because you put money into something that didn't have a catalyst. And it is a stock picker's market. Obviously, the indices have done well. But if you had your money in something like a PayPal, there just was no catalyst, right? Same thing with a SoFi, unfortunately, right? There just wasn't any catalyst this year to get SoFi to get some more momentum. And maybe earnings will be a catalyst, given that SoFi is just so oversold, in my opinion, and that there's probably some more room to the upside. SoFi now red on the day. But I mean, if there's no catalyst on the stock and we have a green market, but it's not a stupid green market like in 2021 where anything would go up for any reason, then you need a catalyst. And unfortunately, SoFi and PayPal just have not had large. I mean, even Rivn didn't have any catalyst until yesterday, right? So Rivn was dead money until you got the catalyst on Rivn. I'm Beneficial said sold all my PayPal. Yeah, it's I think a lot of people, even Steve was thinking about getting rid of. Steve was thinking about getting rid of his PayPal and buying more Nvidia. And I know a lot of people will think, oh, that sounds like a market top. Sure, but like, I mean, do you want to hold in PayPal over Nvidia? Like, I asked this poll yesterday on Twitter. I said, which one? I actually asked the poll because Steve asked me the question. I was like, this is a good tweet. What do you think will go up 50% from here quicker, Nvidia or PayPal? We got 2,000 votes. It's 60-30 or 67-32 Nvidia over PayPal. Dude, if Nvidia goes up 50% from these levels over PayPal 50% would be closer to like 75-ish, 80-ish. Nvidia 50% would be stocks at 120. It would be another $60 basically, which means stock would be closer to 180. Look at that math, dude. You have to be proud of me of that math. Basically, it would be at like 180, whereas PayPal would have to be at 80. And I kind of think Nvidia could get to 180 before PayPal gets to 80, bro. That's crazy. That's insanity. Douglas says my 30K of PayPal options were worth 80K at some point, and I doubled down. They are now worth $900. Damn, bro. That's wild. It's tough. It's tough. Sometimes you got to just live and learn and deal with it. It's absolutely tough. Nvidia, look at that. 126.38. 126.38. Someone says absurd comparison. Is it? Because a lot of people are holding PayPal. A lot of people are holding it. And I mean, Steve is a prime example. Steve bought a decent amount of PayPal when it was at like 54, 55. So he's still up on the position, but he's building out his Nvidia position. He's like, dude, like, I don't want to fucking hold PayPal. I want to hold Nvidia. And if Nvidia goes down, I'll just buy more. That's his philosophy on it right now. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens, but if Nvidia goes up 50% over PayPal, that would be incredible. Micron is now going red, 141. Again, this thing's up 70% year to date, so this one's going to have a little bit of volatility, but going into the earnings, this is going to be a very important earnings for the broader semiconductor landscape, so we'll see what happens with Micron. Robinhood still maintaining above 23. Love that from Robinhood. 23.23 it hit on the day. Again, I agree with the analyst, dude, and obviously, like, I've been covering the company. I understand the company, but just from an objective standpoint, Robinhood's EPS is going to continue to grow. And any street estimates below that $29 range, below $30 range, it is relatively low. Now, granted, Robinhood has to keep executing, but if they keep executing, and obviously on a fundamental basis, the analyst feels like there's a lot going on. And when he had that steak dinner with the CFO, he probably thought there was a lot more going on. Or he at least thought that the growth is not going to stop and that Robinhood really is a plan here. The estimates for the EPS are just too low, and that gets you to a higher price target than 23. So nice to see that from Robinhood. Amazon at 187, Carnival Cruise at 1790. That's up a little bit. Google down a bit on the day. Path 1191. That's down. Unity is down below 16. Chipotle has split. Look at that. Chipotle is split. 63.46 on Chipotle. Up or down 4%. Let's look at their all-time chart now. So basically, you could have bought Chipotle for $7 in 2017. Dude, I remember in 2017, there was a Chipotle on College. I think I had Chipotle like once every other month, maybe not once every month, but definitely once. It was convenient on College. I was eating Chipotle. If I knew about the stock market in 2017, I could have bought some Chipotle. Fucking $7. Now it's at 63. Now, granted, would I have held? Probably if it went to $10, I'm like, oh my God, I made $3. Like I would have sold that shit so quick. But still, I could have said I was in Chipotle before before everyone else was there. LOL. Now 1 bowl plus side of guac equals the cost of 1 share. Yeah, it is getting expensive, dude. I asked for guac the other day. Dude, I think it was like $3 or something. I was just like, what? How's it this expensive? So yes, Chipotle has gone more expensive. And again, I wouldn't be that excited to get into the split adjusted price right now because Bill Ackman and the insiders have been selling a lot of shares. So, I mean, look, it's at all-time highs. It's up a lot this year. It's basically performed like a big tech company. Tesla right here at 192. So you just be a little careful with Chipotle because the insiders are dumping, and so is Bill Ackman. Okay, Tesla's at 192. Why is Tesla up? I don't think it's just because the Rivn news. I think there's other stuff going on with Tesla. Did you guys see Farzad's video yesterday of Tesla killing Uber and Lyft? How many people agree with that? How many people agree that Tesla's going to kill Uber and Lyft? Very, very curious what people say. Okay, so the delivery numbers are going to come tomorrow, right? The only reason I think it's up is because analysts are expecting the delivery numbers to not be as bad as they're thinking. Analysts are expecting like 410,000, which isn't as bad. Yeah, RBC analysis. Did I just say analysis, bro? RBC analyst Tom Narayan raised his delivery expectations from 410 to 433. Oh, sorry, down. He raised it down to 410 from 433. But still, but I guess the market thinks that 410 is better than like 395 or something. Last quarter, what did they do? What was the last quarter delivery numbers? Was it below 400? Tesla Q1 deliveries. I feel like it was below 400 if I'm not wrong. Tesla Q1 2024. It was 386. Yeah, it was below. It was 386. There you go. So at least 410 is above 386. That's not bad. Stock market news says, I think deliveries will be released on July 2nd. Okay, so that means we got about 6 days to see. Wow, Tesla 193, up 3%. Dude, we need to get Tesla above 200. This is so annoying seeing Tesla in this freaking 180, 170 range. Like, it's time to get above 200, go back to normal. Let's get Tesla back where it needs to be. Let's make that run up until that 8-8 event. Then it can sell off after that. You know, the funny thing is about Cathie, if Tesla runs, let's say Tesla runs to 250. Cathie is going to start selling. And we all know Cathie is going to start selling. As long as she thinks it's going to be $8 trillion or whatever by 2029. If it gets to 250, she's taking her profits. There's no way she's not taking profits because she always tends to do this. And she's very good at timing the bottom and the top when it comes to Tesla. If she doesn't sell and it runs to 250, that means her team thinks it's running all the way back to maybe 300, 350. Dan Ives also thinks it can get to 350, which would be exciting. But we're going to have to see how she thinks about it when it starts to run. Vince says, shut up, Amit. I have covered calls at 200. I mean, look, 200 is going to be hard psychologically. So I think your cover calls might not be in that much danger because above 200 would mean the market's like turning a page potentially on their excitement and their overall enthusiasm for Tesla. Wow. Douglas says, get Tesla back into the Mag 7. That's mean, bro. That is mean. That is absolutely mean. Oh, okay. So shout out to Gene. He just messaged me something. So we got a new price target upgrade on Tesla. Stifel initiates Tesla stock with a buy rating. Sees 45% upside potential. Okay. So we're going to do some very strong math. 0.45 times 187 plus 187. They have a 270 price target on Tesla. Again, the math skills are just incredible here. So 270 or what did I say? I said 271 essentially around the 250, 270 range. That's what they see on Tesla, up 45% from here. Is Stifel that important? Is Stifel a really big firm? Do they matter that much? Is that why? I mean, it seems like they definitely matter. Tesla's up 3%. It's so crazy how these firms can put out a note and then their clients will just buy it. Because they're like, oh, okay, they said to buy, so we just buy it. But that's how it happens. Stifel Financial. Yeah, they're a pretty big firm, it looks like. Stifel Financial. They've been around since 1890. Okay, so it seems like they're kind of important. Faraday Futures up 60%. What? Isn't this thing done by now? Why is this thing up 60%, dude? Oh my God. These Faraday bulls are not letting go, bro. They are not letting go at all. There's just no way They are not stopping. That is hilarious. Hood, where's Robinhood? Where's Robin? Robinhood 23.12, not bad on Robinhood. Got to 23.20 at one point. It's pronounced Stiefel. Okay. Only reason it matters is because they initiated coverage. They used to cover Tesla a long time ago, and they just picked it back up. Okay, so the fact that they're picking them back up seems to be bullish, I guess, for Tesla, and that's why it's pumping 3%. Wow, Nvidia 127, but obviously, if they haven't covered them in a while, it seems like they think something's going to happen in the future, and that's why they're excited. So Nvidia here at 127, Nvidia trying to go up another 0.75% on the day. Celsius down 4%. Robinhood at 23.12. Palantir 24.59. Rivn still up 33%. Rivn trying to make it back to $16. So the buyers are coming in on Rivn, 77 million shares. Enovix down 5%. Amazon 187. Carnival Cruise back to $18. That's up 1% from yesterday. TSM is down. Uber is down a little bit as well. And then SMH, the semis ETF, that one is up on the day. Tesla's still up 3%. It's pumping due to Rivn. I don't think it's pumping due to Rivn, dude. I feel like I was going to ask on Twitter yesterday, why didn't Volkswagen partner with Tesla on this? But then I read through the deal and I was like, it doesn't make sense for them to kind of work with Tesla on this. Like, this was like a joint venture partnership. This is something that it was a bit more different. They needed like someone smaller like Rivn to kind of help them get into this. They didn't need an established firm like Tesla. So it made sense they did this with Rivn. Also, they got really favorable terms from Rivn. But the question is going to be, if this ends up working out for both of them. It's because you're gay. Okay. All right. The new people that join the channel, they're going to be confused every time I ask a question and you guys say it's because I'm gay. They're going to be like, what the hell is going on here? Okay, cool. Let's play this clip as we're getting into some other parts of let's actually get some coverage for this Rivn thing. And let's try to get a better understanding of this. So here's Volkswagen. This is the RBC analyst. I keep saying analysis, bro. What is going on? Analyst that covers Tesla. Here's his take on why Volkswagen is working with Rivn. And we'll see what they have to say.
Stock that is absolutely rocking right now is Rivn. It's because Volkswagen announcing it's taking $1 billion stake in the EV maker, and the two automakers also planning a joint venture that could boost that investment to as much as $5 billion. Now, Rivn stock very heavily shorted. So all those betting against it just got their faces ripped off, and they have to buy it. And that's probably one reason Rivn is up 48% right now. Let's bring in RBC Capital Markets Global Autos analyst Tom Narayan, who just literally moments ago put out a note on it. I scanned it quickly in the commercial break. I know you didn't love the stock beforehand, Tom, but what is your take with this VW investment? Does it change your view on Rivn?
Well, I know for one thing, this is why I'm on the sell side and not at a hedge fund shorting stocks because, yeah, you're absolutely right. Getting your face ripped off. I think it's obviously good for the company in that they get much needed liquidity to take them through the next couple of years. Whether or not this allows them to achieve their goals and making, R2, R3, that's another question altogether. But what it does do is highlight something they do have, which is licensing software, right? That's what this deal is about. Volkswagen gives them some cash, and Volkswagen has tons of cash, gives them some cash, gets a big equity stake, and in exchange gets some software. We all know about the challenges Volkswagen's had with software, right? And so we think it's kind of a situation where two very different OEMs with two very different sets of problems really help each other out. But it doesn't really answer the question of Rivn as a car company, I don't think. But it does give them a valuation floor for definitely licensing this tech to other OEMs. Yeah. Is it worth 45% upside on today's move?
I'll have to look at the numbers more. Okay, so
I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, he's making the argument that all of us are kind of looking at that, like, they're surviving. They have an equity stake. They deserve something. Is it worth as much as it's worth right now? Does it deserve to be? I mean, I don't think it's that crazy. They got $1 per every billion. The stock's up $5. It kind of isn't that insane. But now look at them, 16.27. So Rivn had a little bit of a dip to 14.98. Now right back above 16. The street obviously feels pretty bullish on this report, and they believe Rivn survives. And if Rivn survives, then that's obviously very good for long-term shareholders and for people that want to get in at $16. A lot of people don't want to buy Tesla at 192. because they feel like they missed the story. A lot of, the compelling thesis around Rivian when it was trading at 150 back in 2021 or 179 was the idea that, okay, this is the next Tesla. And if you miss Tesla at that point was $400. So Rivian was about half a Tesla in terms of its stock price. The idea was, all right, so there's going to be more EV players. Let's take a bet on Rivian. Obviously, that bet did not work out over the past couple of years. Too much cash burn, not enough gross margins. And so people that do want exposure to EVs and they don't want to buy Tesla because they think paying $600 billion is too much, you can pay $16 billion today for Rivian. The catch is Rivian has to survive, and they really have to prove that their gross margins on their vehicles are attainable in a positive sense. Douglas says Rivian is where liberals can go to invest in EVs guilt-free now. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyone who hates Elon can find a way to invest in, I mean, not just liberals, but like if you are a fan of Elon, you've got an EV company you can go to. That's hilarious, dude. That's so funny. But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you don't like Elon, if you don't like his politics, if you're more Democratic, you think Elon's more conservative, and you still want to get exposure to EVs, I guess you go to Rivian. I mean, there is a big section of the population that does vote with their politics, right? I mean, DJT is a prime example of that. That thing is down 1.84% on the day. But if you don't like a CEO, sometimes you just don't buy I mean, there's so many people I've heard that just don't like CARP, and that's why they don't invest in Palantir. By the way, Palantir put out a new video today. Let's take a look at that. It's like a new promo video. But there's also a lot of people that love CARP, and that's why they like, buying Palantir stock. But a lot of times it's just based on the vibes, quite frankly, of how you think about leadership. Okay, so Palantir put out a new piece of video, and the video is kind of a promo for AIP. So it's about 1:30. Let's take a look at this.
Pentagon efforts to address pilot shortage.
40 years of falling manufacturing.
Decades of manufacturing.
Manufactured crisis. Deindustrial.
That was cool. They send your iPhone a notification. That's cool, dude. That's actually really cool. I've never seen that before. That's the intro right now. All right, not bad. It does remind me of that Get Lucky song, right? I was wondering, I was like, what does this sound like? Yeah, it reminds me of the Up All Night to Get Lucky song. Yeah, not a bad video. I wonder if they're going to be advertising that video anywhere. I'm assuming they're probably going to be putting it out somewhere, but they just posted that on their Twitter today. I also believe on their YouTube. Robinhood up 4.8%. Wow, 23.20 on the day. 23.22 on the day. Again, that upgrade to $29 definitely got the street excited. Amit, do you think AIP Now has any impact on earnings? I think AIP Now is their broader plan for what they want to do overall with AIP. For earnings, guys, I don't know what Q2 earnings are going to be like, because I don't have an inclination of how many commercial deals we got. I think it comes down to commercial. Now, we did get a bunch of government deals, which are going to be amortized over the next few quarters. So I think government growth is going to continue to accelerate. I actually talked about this in my newsletter yesterday, dailypounter.substack.com, if you're not subscribed. But we talked about government growth yesterday in the newsletter. And the idea was like, well, if government growth is accelerating when we're talking about the Maven contract, that should have a positive impact on earnings. Now, the real beat on earnings is going to be when they raise revenue growth to 25%. When Palantir raises revenue growth to 25%, Robinhood right here, 23.30, up 5% on the day. That's when I think the street's going to be like, holy crap, this thing's above 30. That's when the street's going to be like, all right, this is not slowing down. Until we get there, it's going to get a little hard to be above $30. And I don't think AIP Now has an impact this quarter, but I think over the next 2 quarters it does. And then we will see, how that plays out. But yeah, if customer count continues to grow 70% year over year, commercial customer revenue continues to grow, like I think the 30s are on the way. It's just that overall guidance. And this is the opportunity for Palantir to do it, because as we can see with Snowflake, it's a green right now, 124. It's flat on the day, but obviously Snowflake's down a lot this year. CRM has taken a big hit this year. It's green right now, 241. It's flat. All the SaaS money is starting to think, where do we go to get AI exposure? Palantir is AI exposure. If they can have the growth of a traditional SaaS with the AI exposure, I think the street's just going to flood it with capital, even if they're paying a premium for it. And it won't be that big of a premium if the growth gets closer to 25%. So that is going to be the question to see, if that plays out. But if it does, it's going to be at least good news for how we think of where Palantir ultimately can go. Okay, let's get an update on home prices. This has been a big story for the past couple of weeks. Elizabeth Warren literally wrote a letter to the Fed to try to lower interest rates to make houses more affordable. Jay Powell can't really do that. Here's some analysis on where buyers are going for home prices. And let me know in the chat what you think about selling an investment property. I was talking to actually a couple people yesterday about what they're doing with their own investment properties. My dad has an investment property that's matured quite significantly in the past 2 years, and we're thinking of selling it as well. This seems like a great market to sell if someone's willing to buy, but the question is, who's willing to buy given the mortgage rates are where they are.
Schiller Home Price Index showed home prices for the last 3 months at a record high. Prices are now 47% higher than they were in early 2020. Joining us now with more on housing affordability, Danielle Hale, chief economist at Realtor.com. Doesn't make sense to me, Danielle. Is it about supply, I guess? Because if it's so expensive to buy a house, how is anyone buying a house at 7.5% mortgages? It must be supply, right?
That's a good question.
It is a bit about supply. It's also about the amount of equity that is in housing right now. So homeowners are sitting on a record amount of equity. And so those who don't have a mortgage, who aren't affected by today's borrowing costs, can make moves. And so they are able to navigate these higher prices without as much of a ramification. So supply, and also a bit of a shift in the mix of who is actually buying homes right now. So we are seeing a shift towards more expensive homes as opposed to less expensive homes among buyers in the market.
The Treasury's been criticized for not extending maturities with those low rates, but most people did, didn't they? Or are people that are in some arms, are they still going to, is the piper still going to have to be paid? Are they coming due, or have most of them already shifted?
So we are going to see some arms reset, but they are a very small portion of the overall total of outstanding debt. So I don't think it's going to be a big ramification. I don't think we're going to see a huge impact on things like consumer spending or even people's ability to pay their mortgage, but there will be some ramification.
Is this a mean median type thing? I mean, is it the high end that is dragging the price of housing or houses to records, or is it just thinking mean or median? Is it skewed by all the rich people within the coastal regions buying these $50 million houses? Or
we are seeing more sales at the higher end. And if you look at inventory, for example, we track the inventory at Realtor.com, and what we see is actually more lower priced homes on the market. So the homes in the $200,000 to $350,000 category, that's been the biggest area where we've seen growth. In part, that's a regional mix. While on a per square foot basis, these, we're not seeing lower prices, it is good for buyers in that entry level price point to see more options. They have more to choose from.
So again, home prices are up 47% since 2020. The hard part about this is, as she's right, there is coastal buying and selling, which is not necessarily indicative of America. But if you do have money, obviously, you've been able to get some decent prices because you don't really care that much about mortgage rates. And if people are willing to lower their prices to be able to capitulate to you, then yeah, there's opportunities to buy. I mean, this is kind of what we saw in 2021 when BlackRock started buying up a lot of houses. That's not necessarily happening the same way right now. But if you do have cash right now, there are opportunities if you don't care about mortgage rates. The question is for people that are trying to get their first home, what are they going to do? Robinhood right here, nasty red candle from 23.30 down to 22.77. So either someone just, you know what probably happened? Okay, this is just my guess. I think Cathie probably just sold. Either Cathie or an insider just dumped a ton of shares at that 23.30. It's one of the other. It wasn't like a bunch of institutional investors sell on the day it gets a massive upgrade. Retail definitely didn't take their profits at 23.30. This was Cathie or an insider just took a ton of profits, and market's recovering right now because that 22.77 dip on a day when it gets an upgrade to $29 market's going to eat up that dip, which is why it's recovering right here. But this, I would be shocked if Cathie did not sell today when we find out. It's most like, and again, I don't blame her for selling. Every time Robinhood pumps, she has to liquidate because she's not allowed to have more than 5% of her funds in a stock that derives 15% or more of its revenues from equities trading, which is obviously Robinhood because it's a brokerage. So there is a good argument that she just sold right now, or an insider maybe took profits. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see how that happens because you don't get a nasty red candle right there from the top of the day because retail decides to start selling. One other thing on Robinhood yesterday, I saw a bunch of option flows. Someone was buying the January 2026 $22 call option and the August 2024 $24 call option to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of calls. So in terms of bullish betting on the company with call options, there is a lot of people betting on them and buying calls. Maybe because they knew this upgrade would happen tomorrow. Someone always knows something, or in general because they're just getting more bullish on the broader stock. So that's what we got going on right now in Robinhood. Where's the rest of the market? SoFi 641, PayPal 5878, Rivian 1553. So that one's still down below 16. Palantir 2454. S&P's flat on the day. So not green or red, but just flat. Micron 142, Snowflake 124, and then Nvidia. Wow, Nvidia's up another 1.24%. Money finds its way back to Nvidia. This stock was at 116 on Monday. Now it's at 127. 3.14 trillion. It was at 2.94 trillion. So it added $100 billion in market cap. Absolutely incredible. Apple got an upgrade. Where's Apple? Apple 211. Okay, Evan, I'm going to go to your page and see if you have this, if the Apple upgrade. That's why I love following Evan on Twitter, dude. He has everything we need to know about what's happening. Okay, there you go. Like clockwork. So Rosenblatt upgraded Apple to buy from neutral while raising its price target to 260 from 196. All right, so Rosenblatt gave an upgrade. Cantor Fitzgerald, we talked about that, gave NVIDIA an upgrade. Bank of America, Amazon upgrade. And then Jefferies, Google to 215, up from 200. There you go. So again, this just shows big cap, large cap tech continues to get a crap ton of haktua from all these damn banks because they don't know where else to put their money other than Apple, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta, and slowly into Tesla. But it's just incredible. Bank of America listed Amazon as a top pick. Yep, there you go. And again, Amazon needs to break over 190 because fucking Amazon keeps getting rejected at 190, Amazon at 187. Once it does that, it'll have some more room, but that's where it's getting hit right now. Bitcoin 61,000. Let's talk about inflows yesterday. The inflows yesterday were actually not too bad. So ETF inflows amounted to 31 million, which might not seem like a lot, but we had almost 9 straight days or 8 straight days of negative of red. And so yesterday actually putting up 31 million bucks is nice to see for the Bitcoin ETFs. And hopefully that helps continue maintaining momentum. But Bitcoin right here, 61,842. Again, Mt. Gox is going to be selling $9 billion worth of Bitcoin. Canada has already sold $325 million of Bitcoin. I really don't think that matters too much. It seems like relatively inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. So the wick we had to 58.3. I mean, that was a nice level right there of buying the dip if you did. And then it just traded upwards here back to 62.4. Now at 61.8 on the day. Okay, let's go to Fedex. We haven't looked at Fedex earnings. I want to pull that up. So Fedex crushed. The reason why I thought this was important is because that's showing that global demand for commerce is not going anywhere. Technically, is Shopify up? Could Fedex be bullish for Shopify? Let's see. Shopify is green a little bit, 65. I don't know if it's a stretch to say that, if FedEx has more demand going up, then maybe people are ordering more online, and that also could be helping Shopify, Amazon, etc. So FedEx right here, they included, they bought $3.8 billion of stock through fiscal year 2024. They raised their guidance and they beat on EPS and revenue. And again, they have a higher full year diluted EPS of 17.21. That was above expectations, which got the street. very, very exciting. Now, for fiscal 25, they're forecasting low to mid single-digit % revenue growth year over year. Earnings per diluted share of 18.25 to 2025. Permanent cost reductions from the Drive transformation program of $2.2 billion, which is definitely good in terms of reducing OpEx. And then capital spending of about $5.2 billion with priority on investments in network optimization and efficiency improvement, including fleet and facility modernization and automation. Now, I haven't gone through the FedEx earnings call, but I'm curious if they mentioned AI in the earnings call. And I'm going to Command F to see if they mentioned AI, if they talked about AI, because that's also going to be interesting to see if there's an AI angle there. Faraday Future is up 117%. I don't know what the news is on Faraday Future. If anyone knows in the chat what's the news, let me know. But that one's up. And then Nvidia right here crossing 128. Yep, Nvidia is now $128. I mean, if you bought the dip at 116, there you go. Okay, so I'm on FedEx right now. I'm gonna Command F AI and see if there's anything there. This was okay. Here we go. AI. Nothing about AI yet. These are all just AI in different words. I feel like there has to be an AI angle to FedEx, just in terms of fleet optimization, supply chain optimization, operational efficiencies and deliveries. There's probably got to be something there. No, I don't see it yet. Okay, let's do artificial. Wow, it seems like they didn't mention AI. You know, that's probably why the street took them up 11%. The street was probably happy they weren't pumping AI in the name. That's probably why the street was excited. Where's Tesla? Tesla, wow, 193.5, 3.3 on the day. Look at that. Look at that. And then FedEx right here, 289. FedEx up 13%. Again, FedEx pays a 2% dividend. Like, it's not supposed to move like this. But it did. FedEx was up 1% year to date, I think. No, it was up more year to date. Hold on, let me check FedEx year to date. FedEx stock year to date. Now it is up it was up 1% because it's up 14% year to date. So it's up 13% today. So 1 plus 13. Again, math, the theme on this channel. 1 plus 13 is 14. So it's up 14% year to date now. Snowflake 124, Robinhood 2295, 3.66%. So recovering from that 2277 red candle that we saw back up to 2294. Tesla 193, Nvidia 127, and then Shopify here at 64.98 on the day. Tesla really could break 200 this week if it can close around here today. Yeah, and I think we get closer to that before the 8.8 event. I don't think that people think the 8.8 event is the catalyst. I think that's the event where historically all the events on Tesla is, sell the news. So I think that event maybe is less of a catalyst, but the lead up to that event, Tesla always tends to do well before we get there. And if we break above 200, we're not going to have a good earnings. But if Elon can, really speak towards the vision again of FSD, and I think he needs to talk less about Optimus and more so about what is going to happen with the robotaxi, because they're going to be a month away from the event when they report earnings. That's what's going to get the street excited. And if he can convince more people, then maybe we get above this 200 level. And so we'll see what happens there with Tesla. Where's ARM today? I want to see ARM. Dude, ARM, me and Steve were talking about it yesterday. ARM is the most overvalued stock on the fucking planet, bro. But it doesn't matter. It's 172 billion. It doesn't matter because Nvidia and AI and SoftBank owning 90% of the float, they are going to pump this sucker until they can't pump it anymore. And that's why ARM is where it's at right now. Dude, if you bought at 51 in the IPO, you've done well. You're up 3x. And people are arguing at 51 it was overvalued. I mean, it kind of was a little bit, but the street knows how valuable ARM is to the semiconductor and to the broader AI landscape and to the chips landscape. And that's why Micron earnings today after the bell are going to be so important when it comes to discussing what ends up happening. All right. I think that's it for me, guys. I will be back at 12 o'clock. So I'll be back in less than 2 hours, and we're going to be streaming NVIDIA shareholder meeting. It's going to be a very important meeting. Robinhood's going to be at 12:30. Maybe we'll listen to Robinhood right after NVIDIA. So NVIDIA will be 12 to 1 probably. And then Robinhood will just play the recording from like 1 to 2. And we'll listen to both of those calls and see what they have to say. But it will be interesting to see what happens. Robinhood right back to 23. There you go. Yeah, I mean, look, when you get a price target of $29 and there's good logic in that price target, the street's going to buy the dip. And so that's what we're seeing right now in the context of Robinhood. Palantir right here at 24.54, and then S&P 500 on the day currently at 544.4, down 0.08%. Okay, let's do word of the day. And then I'll be back in less than 2 hours. I'm going to go do a run. Going to try to burn 1,000 calories. Then we'll be back at 12 o'clock. And we'll see NVIDIA also try to go on a bit of a run, even though it's already on a bit of a run this morning. Word of the day. Gestalt. Something with two or more parts that are so integrated they are perceived as one. Interesting. I've never heard of this one. The gestalt of the novel's narrative structure with its interwoven stories provides a rich, layered experience for readers. In therapy, the gestalt approach forces an understanding the entire context of a person's experiences rather than isolating specific events. Gestalt, something with two or more parts that are so integrated they are perceived as one. That's kind of romantic, don't you think? That's kind of romantic. Like if you're with a girl and you're like, you're my gestalt, either she thinks you're stupid or like she's like two or more parts that are so integrated they're perceived as one. That's basically saying like you and the girl are like, you know, together to the point where no one can take them apart. So if anyone has a significant other in the chat, please make sure to tell them today that you are in a gestalt with them. And that's what Kelly says. We used to be a gestalt. Oh my God. Oh my. Before I leave, hold on. I got to show you the tweet Kelly put out yesterday. It was so mean. She leaves social media for a month or like a week. And then she fucking puts out this tweet. It was so mean. It was so aggressive, but it was bad. She says, I literally leave for 1 week and Amit switches teams on me. And she brings up Andrew Tate. I mean, it's just I said, oh boy, you posted that screenshot, dude. Holy crap. I said he laughs at my jokes. That's why I switched for Andrew Tate. She posted the screen. Okay, so we were texting yesterday and she was like, I had 4 coffees. It was like 9 p.m. at night. I was like, dude, 4 coffees is a little much. Like, why are you having 4 coffees? And she's like, get off my dick. And then I said, why? I'm gay. I like those. But that was a joke, obviously. That was a joke. That wasn't real. It was a fucking joke. I can't believe you posted that, bro. I didn't even see that. Goodness gracious. Wow. This is just being exposed all the time. All right. Well, anyway, NVIDIA shareholder meeting. We are going to discuss that at at 12 p.m. Oh my God, this tweet was ridiculous, dude. How much did this Andrew Tate tweet get? So this thing, I think it has 9,000 likes now. She said, I leave for 1 week and Amit switches teams on me, Andrew, because you're gay. 9.6 thousand likes. Goodness freaking gracious, dude. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. All right. Well, cool. So we'll be back at 12 p.m. and we'll discuss this NVIDIA shareholder meeting, and then we'll discuss Robinhood, and we'll keep going from there. And then at the market close, we got Micron earnings. So that's going to be a big one today. So those two are going to be the first things at 12. And then Micron earnings is going to be important. Okay, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in 2 hours for NVIDIA and Robinhood, and then back at the market close at 3:45. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.